195 Charlestown in Navy. So give us a call. Our numbers are 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. By the way, those will be the numbers you'll use to be a part of this evening's discussion. Again, thank you all very much for joining us. This is your voice in the community, talk that get results. With regard to your participation in the show, we encourage you to call in on the numbers listed 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. Here's a suggestion. You have a question or comment? Perhaps you can get a pencil, piece of paper, write it down so that you're well organized, and when getting on the show you take as little time as possible so that we can accommodate as many of you as we can. We ask only, first of all, you respect yourselves and then respect others, because we will not accept anything we deem that's not within our broadcast standards, but we encourage you to always be forthful with your point. Thank you all again for joining us. You can also follow our live video stream on our Facebook page at Vaughan Radio and our YouTube channel at Vaughan Radio. Click subscribe. Thank you. Tonight, Conrad Nile Liebert, good evening.
Good evening, Webbo, and good evening to your hard-working staff here at Vaughan Radio. Good evening to the listening public, home and abroad, my friends in Toronto, my friends in Detroit as well, New Jersey. Sometimes tune in. And I want to welcome all you guys to this program this evening. This program is a program that discusses issues affecting the people, and I always like to be a part of this conversation. So I'm here every Tuesday evening over many years, and of course there are times the feedback are not so encouraging, and there are times it's very positive. But I, for one, like to engage myself in conversations that affect people, the development of the people, and so I present myself here. And I must say thank you for allowing that to happen, Webbo. Thank you very much. And I would like to say also good evening to Mr. Stanley, a veteran to this program, and of course everybody speak of Mr. Stanley. And so once again, Webbo, I must say, with the various things that's taking place in and around of us, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to engage in such conversation this evening.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening, my fellow panelists. And good evening to the people of St. Kitts, and more particularly the gracious people of Nevis, and those who listen to us on the World Wide Web and throughout the Caribbean Basin. There's much to be said this evening, and we will go right ahead and say what we have to say. As usual, we have quite a good following in terms of listening audience and viewing audience. Good evening to all those who are viewing us and who will be listening to us on the World Wide Web, and as the case might be. Webbo, there again in the forefront, the Honorable Mark Brantley, but we will allow that to become the tail end of our conversation this evening. But there was a horrendous report regarding those people who were pulled from police custody in Haiti and were burnt by gasoline and tires. That's a horrendous way to die. At the same time, I didn't get the item as clearly as I should have, but I do not know as to whether or not these were gang members, as the case might be. But whomever they were, God bless their souls. Well, we had a topic last week on Rupert Murdoch, and at the same time, I understood now that Tucker Carlson Tucker Carlson was fired by Fox, Rupert Murdoch, and I'm not sure what will happen with reference to the relationship between Tucker Carlson and Fox, Rupert Murdoch. At the same time, it is rancorous. The whole ship of state has come down just like a domino effect, house of cards. As a result, their ratings have been hampered quite significantly, and the following that Tucker Carlson had on Fox, some people now have gone to a competing entity and been viewing that competing entity, and as a result the ratings on Fox is not as vibrant. Like I said, this whole thing was based on rating, and ratings brings more money into the register for Fox organization. At the same time, we are hoping that they would be put out of business. So as we go forward from here, we are hoping that, again, everything would reach to a certain degree of balance, normalcy. Let me switch gear a little. Biden has just announced his re-election bid for another 4-year term, and I'm not sure if he should have gone back in the race, but at the same time, it is believed that he's the only one who has taken out Trump, and he also believes currently that he can do it again. As a result, maybe, just maybe, it is a surer bet going with Biden than going with somebody else. At the same time, there are people who are on the fringes or in his circle who are licking their chops, hoping that he should not run again, but it is believed that he may not. Well, God forbid, he may not live out his 4-year term. At the same time, Kamala Harris, the vice president, is there, and she is quite young, and hence she might be able to carry the load if the unfortunate were to happen. Not only, well, we're not going to the ultimate, because he could suffer a sickness, an illness, and he is not functional, and as a result, the vice president would have to take over. She can carry the load. I know she can. But the Democratic Party has to pull all their players and all their levers so that they can have another successful term in terms of governing the United States and the rest of the free world. Biden has pulled together a coalition of nations to confront the Soviet Union or Russia for the invasion of Ukraine, and as China attempting to walk a tightrope, saying that it is in opposition to the invasion of a sovereign country by another nation, another country. But at the same time, you can't trust China. You can't trust China. But it is left to be seen as to what will transpire down the road. seemingly, Taiwan is a democratic country. At the same time, they are hoping that if China were to invade Taiwan with military force, the United States would come to its aid. It is a tall order for the United States because she would be splitting herself quite thinly over the globe to be able to attend to all these hot spots. But if you are a strong nation, vibrant nation, a democratic nation, and you're able to get your democratic other nations to follow your lead, then a lot of good things could happen. But at the same time, we understand the military might of China. We understand if that is coupled with the military might of Russia and the military might of Iran, the military might of North Korea, they all are adversaries of the United States. And as a result, she has to be very careful, United States I mean, in terms of walking a tightrope, not to more inflame these countries, because they all got their firepower pointing at the United States of America. And could you believe what would happen if they were to use all that military might pointing toward this one nation, who did a lot of damage in the last World War? She brought Japan to a certain degree of respect, to a certain degree which in Hiroshima and Nagasaki they felt the brunt of United States fire atomic power, and as a result they surrendered. However, we do not know how this global war is going to pan out had the United States decided to take on China and Iran, Russia, North Korea, and a few other small players in between. India can play a global role, but they are standing neutral, but at the same time still assisting in propping up China in terms of trading heavily. Because if you really want to control a person or a nation, you control their purse strings. So in this regard, we are hoping that the United States would re-examine, redefine its policies, and see exactly how they could retool and pull back a little in terms of their gunning going forward. At the same time, we are hoping that peace could be brought to the fore. Peace could be brought to the fore. I repeat, Webbo, I hope peace could be brought to the fore.
Well, Mr. Stanley, your last statement doesn't seem to reflect the reality of the situation. But I do agree with lots of things you have said about America splitting itself too thin. But let's go back to the balance that you mentioned in the beginning, the balance in America. I think an alternative view contributes to balance. You want to get rid of Fox for various reasons, but I think even though they lost that court case, and it's well known that they've been fraudulent or they were pushing some theory that was not true, or have said things about machines that they cannot prove. It still remain quite a player in the U.S. politics, and it seems like what have happened to them as it relates to not the court ruling but the settlement haven't really impact to any great extent on the followers of Donald Trump. And yes, Biden have declared his candidacy, and really he shouldn't do that. I don't think he should try to get that second term, because he had quite a sound victory first time around. But I think he has exposed himself to some risk, high risk of winning, because what I'm saying, there are going to be those who think that he's too old. I think he surprised most people, the majority of people in the US, when he decides to run again. In the next election, he's going to be 82 years old. And people have already said that they have already realized, as one guy put it, he seems to have some oil on his clutch. That means his clutch is slipping, his memories are going. And it's been also said that he's probably going to do a lot of things on screen as it relates to the campaign, because again of his age. But he had a sound victory in the previous election, so why put it on the basis of maybe uncertainty as to the second term around? Maybe he may feel like he's the only one can control and come out victorious of Donald Trump. But I don't think he can make that statement at this point in time. Globally, things are changing so fast that the American public can sway in a big way, because they have done that in the past as it relates to wars. And I think Donald Trump is pushing a good idea, because he's saying if it wasn't he. Because we can all sit around and talk about wars, but who's on the front line? The people. And what surprises me at times is when countries that are oftenly at war with each other, when there is a renewed or an attempt to have a renewed relationship, because it seems like that what was happening during the Trump days with Russia, America cry out, no, they should not get along. People like you, Mr. Stanley, no, they should not get along. We seems to prefer to see them at war, but who is on the front line? The everyday people is on the front line, losing their lives in the millions and thousands and millions. The civilians are who are suffering, when these things happen. So I cannot see Biden coming through with great certainty in his second term, because what is going on with China, anything can happen in that respect. Tomorrow China can move on Taiwan, and that promise that America made to Taiwan, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to back that promise soundly in a way that is really truly convincing, because as you have said, they have so many fish to fry around the world. I would have discouraged him, and I believe voters would turn around from voting for an individual who seems to not have health issues, but seems to have gone beyond his age of acceptance as the President of the United States. And so we'll wait to see what's going to happen. There's still quite some time, but don't be surprised with all that is happening around Donald Trump, that all this negative that seems to be confronting him, or all these court cases, all these situations that surrounds him, don't be surprised if all that doesn't turn into a winning armor for him. It all depends on the global situation. And today we don't know when the war in Ukraine would be ended. We don't know when the war with China involving Taiwan will be start. We don't know what is going on with Israel and the Palestinians, because America is playing a major role in that conflict, or they can play a major role in that conflict as it relates to the Israel situation. America seems to be coming off like a kind of hypocrite, because Israel is basically breaching international laws, but no, America says nothing about it. America says nothing about it. And so there are great imbalances around the world, and I believe the American public are very sensitive towards its people, involving its soldiers perishing in wars that the people in itself does not see any direct benefit from. Alliances and alliances. I thought America had passed that stage from Obama. And as I heard something today, yes, Obama was very clever because he tended to dodge away from all the major issues in the world. And to me, he had a beautiful presidency of hanging out, not profoundly impacting anything. He was there when the Syria war started. He was there when the Syrian government used chemicals on its own people. Not a thing, And so we pass on now to Biden. Biden have turned the volume up to the fullness for whatever reason. There's war all around, and America has its share of influence in every bit of it, even in the Ethiopian war. In Congo, I don't even know really what's going on there in terms of American involvement, but I could assure you they are playing a major role in that as well. And so anything can happen. The politics of the world, to me, speaks to a situation which is unpredictable, unpredictable. And so nothing can be certain going forward as it relates to the Biden candidacy. And nothing can be certain as it relates to the influence on the American public going forward, say in the next 4 or 5 years. Things are, to me, just starting, and we don't see no end to conflicts that's been going on for quite a while, and new ones keep coming forward, And so, from a humanitarian point of view, I would suggest that that tendency, whatever it is, that encourages these global conflicts, should really find itself in the back seat. I'm not pointing my hands at Biden, but I think America can conduct itself in probably better ways that can yield to a more humanitarian outcome in a lot of these major conflicts around the world.
Well, I would say that the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, warned President Biden that Israel is a sovereign nation, and Biden told Netanyahu that he was going down the wrong path because Israel is the only democratic nation in that region, and as a result, it must be kept in that realm as the only democratic country in that region, and therefore the sphere of influence of the United States is dwindling to a certain degree, where China is now attempting to fill that vacuum. China is offering a hand, a chance, an opportunity to attempt to solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I am so disappointed if China is given that opportunity, because ultimately this would tell to the rest of the world that China has arrived. I never wanted China to arrive, but it has arrived, and as a result it is operating in the sphere of influence where the United States has failed. The United States supplied a lot of arms to Saudi Arabia, and Biden went to Saudi Arabia. He should not have gone, but he came back empty-handedly. The Prince of Saudi Arabia, who runs Saudi Arabia, gave him a slap in the face, simply because he has plenty money, plenty oil money. The United States has supplied a lot of arms to Saudi Arabia against Iran. Now China has stepped up and has caused the Iranians and the Saudi Arabians to have come together simply to solve a relationship which the United States seemed to have failed at. And it is quite troubling to see China playing a major role, bringing these two adversaries together, and ultimately will have good trading relationships with them, meaning the United States would no longer enjoy the benefits of trading arrangements. Of course, Boeing sold approximately maybe 100 aircrafts to Saudi Arabia, which is most definitely a good piece of business for Boeing. But at the same time, when you look at the military side, the Saudi Arabians and the Iranians are going to Russia and China with their trading relationships, and that represents a heap of dollars for China. There is a saying that goes like this: if you were to keep a man poor, you would control him. But if you start trading with him and spending your money with him, he will get out of your control. Meaning, the more trade China does with these two countries gives it an opportunity to really have a good relationship, and ultimately trading will go on. So, as it stands, China has arrived. I had given the United States another 100 years to be on the world stage as a global and influential player. But based on the current scheme of things, things are happening much faster than anticipated, in my view. This grip that the United States had on the world with reference to influence is rapidly dissipating, and it is alarming and troubling, because I believe firmly in democracy and the democratization of the rest of the world. Unfortunately, you have these authoritarian states that are springing up, and Donald Trump seemingly would have liked to have gone down the road or that pathway to knock down all the guardrails of democracy and turn to autocracy. At the same time, he was not successful. He was not successful. But January 6th told us that if he is successful in this time around, he will attempt to go at it again. I do not put it past him, because I think he believes that he's indispensable. He is that type of thinker that he can do nothing, or there are no consequences. I do not know how he could think like that, but luckily he was swept out of the presidency, and he didn't have the armor and protection of the presidency of the United States, where he could have done a lot of things and gotten away with them. He has now been brought into Manhattan court to face criminal charges, and I'm hoping that those charges would stick to the point where he would spend some time in prison. That, of course, would pierce his armor of invincibility. Hopefully, he would not be successful at this second time around with reference to attempting to get the protection of the presidency of the United States, where he feels he could willingly do anything having the cloak or the armor of the presidency of the United States. He wants to tear up the Constitution of the United States. So I'm saying to people in the United States, understand who Donald Trump is, understand his mindset, and be sure not to give him the nod to get back into the chair of the presidency of the United States. At the same time, his friend Putin is waiting and hoping that he would be successful in this second time around with the presidency, and bring to Putin the state of, well, socialism, communism, as the case might be, authoritarian state, to Putin and to Xi Jinping of China. They all, if this were to happen, there would be a seismic shift in terms of global order. And therefore, I am worried. I'm worried. I hope I would live to still see democracy in its stage going forward. But if, for whatever reason, Donald Trump gets back in there and is able to carry the mantle of the presidency and shift the balance of power from the West to the East, we are in major trouble for the rest of the world.
I don't think so, Mr. Stanley. I think we got to be open to change. Sometimes it rubs against you, but sometimes we got to be open to change. I mean, it's not like black people been having a jolly beautiful time. We've been the race thing has been happening a long time. But we can go on speaking about this all night. Mr. Stanley. As I said, there's still quite a distance before the real election campaign begins. Yes, I agree with you. America is losing its grip on the world because it's about trade. It's about and if half of the world don't want to trade with you for whatever reason or find themselves coming together in different groups, then it will spell negative for America. But things would change, Mr. Stanley. Don't you ever think things remain the same? That America is going to be the police of the world, or the most prosperous nation of the world. Just the other day, China was the most populous nation in the world. Now it's just the other day it was China. Now it's India, and so influences would shift. And I know you are probably a little older than I am, but I'm open to change. I'm open to living in a world where America is not the leader of the world. In fact, I don't believe that America should be the police of the world, especially, it does have at times prejudice foreign policies, and cause great damages and destabilize countries globally, and so if I'm open to something better, I'm open to something better. But if you allow me, Mr. Stanley, to shift the topic a little bit, because I've been hearing a lot of back and forth about the music festival in St. Kitts and how it's been branded ganja-friendly festival, and I think there's been a lot of back and forth as it relates to the public on that matter. It's quite a debate, and a lot of people have weighed into it, and I personally would like to hear your view on that.
Well, I personally been opposed to ganja simply because I didn't know much about it. Saturday I was at a doctor's office and I was delighted to hear his take on the ganja matter. But I told him, based on what I learnt, that his profession spends the big money on ganja, not for recreational use, but for patient care. And he was able to confide in me. Well, I shouldn't use that word when I'm saying it publicly. That he was invited to drink some ganja tea. And he drank it, and it seemed to have been very good. But he opposes the recreational use of the herb, simply because seemingly it's been abused by the lower end of our society to the extent where people become immune or hooked on it, and eventually become a menace to society in certain respects. There are people who use it but still be productive. Now, if they are labeling the music festival as
ganja friendly,
why would that term be used at this particular point in time? For me, I learned about ganja when I returned here. Although where I lived in another jurisdiction, the place where I was working, there was a tree right at the entrance. I never recognized it. I lived in that jurisdiction for 24 years. And based on when I arrived back here, I saw the police confiscating some big trees of marijuana. But I saw it on television. That's when I really recognized it. Because of the illegality of it at the time, I never wanted to know about it. I never wanted to identify it. So I stayed away from it. Now, based on what you're saying, how would they use this term, and what is the implication of the term? What is the application of the herb with regard to the festival? Who brought it to the fore? I know that the authorities currently are looking at it as an industry. But from that aspect, I have no problem at all with it, because...
But they say, just to say, they say it's a pilot project, meaning brand naming the festival to be
well, that's marketing.
In the hope that that would promote tourism.
Well, it's not a bad idea to have marketing capability and marketing strategy as it relates to ganja. But at the same time, the implication and the application can be far-reaching, but if it is not done in the right way, there is a company in Canada that is marketing ganja, and there are countries, not only the United States, but other countries, who find that there is plenty money to be made from it. I saw on television a greenhouse in Britain, and the greenhouse was a mammoth greenhouse, no small feat. And based on the quantification of the money or revenue that comes from that greenhouse and its production, it tells you that there's plenty of money in it.
There's a lot of money in it, Mr. Stanley.
Just the other day, I understood that Mike Tyson went to Antigua and invested a lot of money in a farm in Antigua. I'm not sure how true that is, but at the same time, people are looking to find out how they could get their share
Maximize.
of the wealth that is going to come from the ganja industry.
Yeah.
So if they're going to market it as the ganja festival, music festival,
Ganja friendly, yes.
ganja friendly, it is quite a step forward in publicizing its application.
Or their intentions.
So where are we? What I'm saying again is that the people at the low end of the totem pole within our society who buys and smokes, or people who buy and smoke a spliff, they are not the big money players, but doctors who realize that their patients need relief. Because I was told about this particular incident that no matter what pharmaceutical recommendation that this doctor applied or gave to that patient, the patient still had a lot of complication, vomiting, whatever the ailments are that were associated with what the doctor did. And the doctor was able to give that patient marijuana tea, and everything just went. The patient got relief. So this herb has been around for centuries, not maybe, for centuries. And people who knew of it, knew the benefits of it, probably would have used it wisely. But in current times, we found some of our society people who became abusive of the application and the use without any margin of guidance, and consequently wind up becoming a menace to our society. And that's why it carries a stigma. But I'm open, I'm becoming more open based on what I am hearing in terms of its application. And if, for whatever reason, we can be a more healthy society because of its use, then I listened to a forum sponsored by the central bank, and it was held in Antigua. And sure enough, the amount of herbal remedies which has been passed down from generation to generation, when you quantify that amount in terms of our health bill, using local herbs, bush, as the case might be, we could save billions of dollars here in our Caribbean community. So I'm saying to you, that terminology, that term which is used, is obviously designed to market it and to expand the knowledge of it. And therefore, I am no longer critical of the herb But the application in terms of the people in our society at the lower end of the totem pole, that must be guarded against in terms of the structure, the education, and ultimately the guidance to which it must be used and not abused.
You know, Mr. Stanley, the debate is out there, and it specifically surrounds the fact that they are, or the organizers are probably endorsed by the Prime Minister to market the festival as a ganja-free, not ganja-free, but a ganja-friendly festival. To me, that points to intention in terms of what they intend to do going forward. They say it's a pilot project, and it's point towards developing tourism. You know, what can I say? Develop a brand of tourism, I suppose, that involves or surrounds, that is linked to, in association with the legalized or the usage of ganja. But to me, you know, Mr. Stanley, there's great. Somebody is getting a bit too excited here about ganja. I think personally, because when you brand a festival a ganja friendly, what do you expect of the people attending the festival? That they would be there and they would be, of course, sharing one space, and because you're sharing one space, you will be affected by people who are smoking, whether cigarettes or ganja. To me, it's something they probably didn't, you know, take time out and check out, because we all know globally that smoking is banned. It's banned based on the fact that we share a common space, okay? And you may not be able to tolerate what I'm consuming. And in every new construction around the world today, in the cities, there's a smoking room or smoking area. Okay? I find it's a bit, I don't want to say irresponsible, but it opens the bracket to a lot of social disturbances within the confines of the festival. Now, I listen a lot of talk. For me, and I'm talking about being at an event, if somebody's standing next to me and smoking a cigarette, it affects me greatly, and I've got to move around or ask them, please, to, you know, I'm affected by your cigarette smoke. And so it is with ganja. So it is with ganja. And to really open the gate like that, in a sense, people can abuse that opportunity and act in a way that even affects those who enforce the law, even though they are not really on about arresting you because you're smoking, but there are those who probably would go around and provoke, because the opportunity presents itself to do that. But what I'm saying is, more importantly, we share a space, and we cannot deny that. I don't know if they plan to have a zone where the smokers smoke, or they intend that the smokers will be in and around and mixing up with everyone. That's, to me, create a social dilemma. And it's almost disrespectful to others when you're going to do something that affects your neighbor, someone close to you, No, when Lord they ask who is your neighbor, they say anyone who is affected by your actions or probably your inactions. And to me, it's quite careless. There's a great excitement about ganja here, and to me it's coming from the top. And I, for one, is waiting to see where they're going with this. I know in Canada, the Canada government sell ganja from an office downtown in Montreal, because I've been there and I've been in the line. You know, this is no hearsay. And for me, I think if the government of St. Kitts and Nevis want to make money from ganja, let them do the same thing. Why don't they just sell ganja? Because people are buying ganja. This great hope that they have about creating this big industry, I am waiting to see exactly what form it's going to take. Because everybody will grow ganja. Everybody's growing ganja. I know I think Grenada has a special arrangement where they supply ganja to Europe, I think on some kind of scheme, alternative medicine scheme. And they've been encouraging other Caribbean countries to be a part of it. I'm sure they may be discouraging it now because everybody is growing ganja and finding a market all over the world. I want to know what is this great excitement about this ganja industry. I mean, what they intend to do other than grow it here. We got any labs or anything here to turn it into anything? I mean, you cannot be so foolish to go make edibles. You know what that's going to cause? Because when you eat ganja, it creates a different effect on your body as opposed to smoking it. In fact, when you eat it, it actually impacts on you more serious than when you smoke it. So I'm for one, and I know about ganja. No one can tell me much about it. I listen to everybody talking, they don't know about ganja. Okay? I am waiting to see the nature of this industry that we all are so excited about. What I'm hoping is that my people doesn't end up in a field planting ganja for some corporate firm somewhere, directly or indirectly. Okay? And for the Rastafarians, them, I hope they don't find themselves playing that role for the government who is linked with some corporation, and at the same time, we here in our federation only can grow 6 trees. Okay? So you're going to work in a plantation with 2 million trees, but you only can have 6 homes. I mean, that seems to me like government want to take away the power from you and adapt the power of making all the money and leave you where? On a wage? A weekly wage? Look, I'm not excited about this ganja thing. What I would like them to do is to legalize ganja and treat it like any other bush. And then a lot of the things would dissipate from around it. Okay? Of course, the science have said a lot. But it's also a great social experiment. And one have to be very careful as to how the society reacts when we are labeling a festival where everyone wants to go and enjoy cannabis friendly. To me, putting on the green lights to people to come, and of course those who do not smoke ganja be seriously affected. Smoking is an intrusive thing. I smoke, it affects you, you know, and that's why we must be careful. We cannot be in isolation, different to the ways of the world. I know a long time before they had this big wave of legalization marijuana, and you go to festival all around the world, you couldn't smoke because the police wasn't really aggressive, you know, in these festivals. And I think they probably should have asked that of the police officers in the festival, as opposed to branding it ganja friendly, because to me it opened a floodgate that it can really, well, blue some nights, blue some of the outdoors nights. You know, I mean, it to me it's such a almost irresponsible thing to do, you know, and it does not do good for the herb itself. It does not do good for the herb itself. Okay? And this idea of marijuana tourism, I mean, what's that? Tourists smoke marijuana? I don't know anything about that. I mean, you think tourists go to Jamaica because of marijuana? No, there is nothing to me that makes one think if you legalize marijuana in St. Kitts, we're going to get more tourists? No, 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 no. That's a myth. That's a myth.
You want me to give you a story? I mean, it's a short stint. I was a young employee at the Buccaneer Hotel, and because of my energy, a lady walked up to me and asked me, "Where did you get the stuff?" So I asked her, "What stuff?" She said, "Marijuana." And let me tell you, I became so fearful because of the illegality of it that I went to my supervisor and I told my supervisor, "This lady wants marijuana." And my supervisor turned to another fellow from Antigua, and the fellow from Antigua asked me to point the lady out.
Good.
And he actually dealt with it.
Yeah, sort her out. But that's like one somebody.
Yeah, but
One somebody. But to me,
but publicly.
yeah, but the point I'm trying to make, right, that I don't see much of an impact on the tourist industry by legalizing marijuana in St. Kitts. All the islands are doing the same thing. I mean, what's so special? I believe that instead of thinking about planning marijuana, because a lot of youth thinking about that, but they don't know how they're going to get their things sold. Right? And governments don't know if they decide to be the salesperson, they still don't know how they're going to get the things sold. They should plan food. Eventually, they're going to make more money out of food. Plant your 6 little trees on your porch or your veranda or whatever and enjoy that. Okay? And go plant some food. Don't be driven by government talking about the people should get in fields to go plant miles and miles around to go send where? To who? That's slavery. We can't repeat ourselves on that. I mean, I don't see the hype, personally. I do not see the hype. I see a plant that should be legalized and people should have access to it. Those who want to have access to it. But you can't force it down nobody's throat. You can't force an environment onto people who want to go out and have fun, you know. And that's why I think it's reckless.
I think there's a company.
And I'm saying this, and I would like to say this, that I'm a Rastafarian, okay? And I'm 58 years old. So I know about herb for more than 42 years, okay? But the great excitement that is gripping the people at the top about the herb is mythical. It's mythical.
There is a company known as Altria that is on the stock market. And
they are companies. Yes, there are people who turn millionaires. I mean, there are a lot of people get rich recently out of marijuana. Out there, in Canada, a lot of people. But where the money is in people buying marijuana. In Nevis, people buying less marijuana. But tell the government to sell marijuana and put a tax on it. That's what the government of Canada is doing. And it's a very simple thing. You know, but don't sell out your people, put your people out there on a plantation to go plant a marijuana for a corporate firm going nowhere. Okay? I mean, if we want to move to another level of setting up labs and so forth, but we're going to still have to market our whatever we're doing. And we still have to meet certain standards. America planted a lot of marijuana more than the whole Caribbean. I mean, just the other day there was a big conflict in Jamaica where Canadian marijuana was imported into Jamaica. And what the Prime Minister said, it's a two-way arrangement. We're not only going to send to Canada, they're going to send to us too. it's sufficient to see that all this is just a myth. Everywhere plant the thing, but who are you going to sell it to?
Well, we got to get to the next level in terms of the laboratories and the science behind it, because it can be a viable industry, but it must be organized well and to the level where it has an industrial application. So at the same time,
You know, hemp. You know what's hemp? Hemp is marijuana that they use to make a lot of products, cloth and ropes and all that. You know, that's an industrial based plant. You know, coming out of the same species. You know, and back in the in the earlier days, they used to. I mean, that was the main thing happening before they make it illegal. I don't think they plan to plant hemp in the Federation, but if they do, they find the workers to go plant the hemp. You understand?
well, what is the hemp? Isn't it a byproduct of?
No, hemp is ganja, but it doesn't. It's probably the type of ganja that science have not worked on to make it very potent and so forth. It's basically it's used in industrial applications to make rope and fabric, hemp, and so forth. But there's still ganja that grows in a certain way and form buds and seeds and everything that people smoke, and they use that also for medicinal purposes, But to me, what they're on about here is the one for medical purposes and so forth. And I don't think we have developed the science that we can get the direct benefit. And then even if we do that, we can supply our people. But to go beyond our borders, we got to have we have to be on certain level, certain approval have to be given. But how much can you go beyond our borders when everybody is doing it? It's an excitement we have that, to me, it doesn't match up to the reality, the economic might that they're proposing. No. I don't see more tourists coming in here because think it's legalized ganja. In what way? I mean, somebody call in and let me know. Tell me how, for what reason we're going to have a greater influx of tourists. The herb is for the people.
Well, let's shift a little. The former Prime Minister, Dr. Lentil Douglas, stated that he is going to use his good offices and with the hope that we can get more into sports and contributions coming from international donors for our sport enthusiasts. And I'm hoping that he would, in his power as the foreign minister, to ensure that he gets the help and cooperation from international organizations using the power of his office for the sporting industry in various areas. Because we did well just recently in the Carifta Games, and in that regard, the utterance that is coming from the former Prime Minister makes sense. And if he can tap into resources from his ministry using the long arm of the ministry in foreign affairs, ask donors for contribution, which would help our athletes.
Yeah, but not just help our athletes, and to really, create that structure that the whole sporting fraternity can feel like they're being thought of. You know, I'm happy to hear that very much, because the Prime Minister was up here. He get wet too at the Mondo track, and that to me begs.
Well, it was a former Prime Minister who mentioned it.
And he is now the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
And so I hope when that happens, if it does, we will get our share here over in Nevis. And it's all right to hear them say what they're saying. It's another thing for it to impact us over here. And because I would like to see, honestly, we are still very much almost embarrassed by the condition of El Comido Park, where sprang the first Leeward Island cricketer to make it to the West Indies. And there was a celebration recently, I think that marked 50 years since he made his breakthrough. We would really like to see the facility looking better. It doesn't seem like much has been done to it for a very long time, and if things have been done to it, we would like to see an improved facility. I think, as it relates to sports, we got a good cricket ground over in the Newcastle area over there, and but as it relates to our main cricket ground here in Grove Park, here in El Comido World Park, we will truly like to see some financial input in that, and get it better and make it a place to go once again, and not just the structure now, but also the engagements. Because what I realize, we doesn't have the involvement of folks, various villages, like we used to have before in sports. Sometimes when we get donation, the donation is really to make an event happen, and not to say that we get a donation and we're going to just administrate it in such ways that. The point I'm trying to make is that the people playing cricket must feel in many cases, the direct benefit of these donations. If you're donated some money to promote, say, above 16, below 20 kids in terms of, say, cricket, we expect that even to facilitate them in buying gears that money can be used for. I mean, sometimes when we think about these donations, we think about structures, buildings, tracks, and repairing the wall and repairing the pavilion. But encouragement must be given by way of stipend to those who are involved, who are putting out their efforts, because such reward would only encourage them more. Because even when I think of the mini Olympics, where kids work hard, parents work hard for months, they go to the track and make sure the kids morning at the beach, so if finance is given towards sports, a stipend for such people is not a bad thing. It's an encouraging thing. I just wanted to make that point, Mr. Stanley. And that any money that is being given for the Federation for sports, Nevis can do it that big time, very badly.
Well, I don't know if the donors put certain stipulations on their donations as to what the donation is earmarked for. whether it is for the enhancement of the structure, as the case might be, or the track, as the case might be, for gears, as the case might be. But what you're saying is that if directly the donors can also add that X number of dollars,
yes,
be given based on the accomplishment of the athletes, that of course would be a direct impact from the donors to the personal athletes.
Yeah, and not only like those who play for, and we're not just talking about running. So we're talking about cricket or football. If you have a camp, you know, and things like that, you know, a stipend is not a bad thing, because you're exposing them now to the rewards of working, and it's really a sign of encouragement, you know. But sometimes we just think of, when these funds come, we just think of structural development and so forth, you know. For me, I think that a little stipend to give to those that show great potential at times. And look, no, when people show potential, these people become national assets, you know, in a very, very serious way. Okay? Yes, the mini Olympic, they're very small at that point. But when you find a good cricketer, say a very good excellent cricketer, he's 16 years old, boy, we got to take this man under our wing as the sport department and care for him and advance him, because that's what Jamaica do when they discover the little athletes. You know, it's like, what? You become now a part of the government. In a sense, government take care of you, nourish you, make sure, train. You know, I don't think that individual attention sometimes is exhibited here. You know, I see it a lot. Even in our Queen shows and so forth. Like when somebody come Queen for Culturama, government supposed to, that person they're now supposed to be an ambassador, so they're supposed to be now a part of a structure that they're going to do positive things for Nevis, they're going to train her, they're going to, you know, but I don't see that type of thing, you know, and that's why...
But it does exist.
It does exist. I know it exists in St. Kitts. I know it exists in Antigua. When a
It
queen is
exists.
crowned in St. Kitts, she become a part of the national asset in a sense, and they deal with her in that respect. Very important, because she now becomes an ambassador, you know. And of course we got to train our people. Many times they're good looking, they look nice, but they cannot represent themselves. Maybe they cannot speak well and so forth. We got to train them, you know, and because to me standards must be raised here. And it comes from hard work, really. It comes from hard work. I don't think we put in sufficient time at all in what we're doing to present to the world or to represent ourselves. You know, I see it all the time. And I've been listening something the other day, and they say Nevis culture is dying. Nevis culture is dying, and I say yes. We got a culture department that you pay over 100,000 every month. What happened? I look at the St. Kitts masquerade there, and I say, wow, they all dress the same shoes, everything. Don't talk about the drum players. When you look at Nevis one, I say, what? I mean, come on, it makes me feel bad. What happened? What's going on in the cultural department? Are they not putting in the work? Are we getting value for our money around here? I see a strong culture framework in St. Kitts that exhibits itself during Culturama and the various village festivals in a big way. Whereas over here, I see it diminishing. Why? I mean, I see kids dancing and they got to listen big drum from a tape, a CD. What's happening? This is what I'm talking about. I mean, we drift from all that into this. We drift from the fact that you said the foreign minister, Dr. Douglas, receiving money for sports, and you see how far this will move now into. It's still dealing with the necessities of a society, where money is given and where the money is spent. to really achieve the maximum benefit. But it doesn't matter how much money you get. If you don't plan to put in the time, if you don't plan to put in the work, you'll waste time. Trust me. Sometimes the money don't reach the people where the money goes.
Well, it's based on the earmark, and if for whatever reason the donor, who knows, the donor knows exactly what and how the application of donated resources must be applied, and usually they would stipulate as to how these monies must be spent or distributed, and the rewards and benefits are there. So we will have to continue to press forward, seek for the donations, and eventually get what.
Yes, but we got to put in the work.
Well,
we got to put in the work.
Nothing comes good without effort. We had a motto in school: the palm is not gained without effort. And I usually use interchangeable nouns. The trophy is not gained without a tremendous amount of effort. So the effort must be put in, and once the effort is put in, you would see progress, and ultimately reward would be forthcoming. There are people who, in fact, lackadaisically don't put in effort and expect to be rewarded. It doesn't work that way. Usually, if you put in the effort, and the effort based on obviously reward will follow.
Yes.
This is Thought That Get Results. Conrad Nye Liebert and Edric W. Stanley. When we come back, I have something that I want to change the conversation with.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts, or call them at 466-4938.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results. Gentlemen, as I said, I'd like to just give you a bit of information and see whether or not you have a comment in it. You know that the British Virgin Islands had a general elections yesterday. And one of the interesting things about the British Virgin Islands is how sometimes, from political standpoint, they juggle. And it turns out that none of the parties, there were 13 seats, none of the parties got 7. One got 6. So it meant that some juggling had to be done. And in our news here, I'm seeing an item on that particular situation. And let me just go, and it says that It has now been confirmed that former First Lady Lorna Smith has joined forces with the Virgin Islands Party, VIP, to help form the government in the British Virgin Islands. It was also stated that the swearing-in ceremony will follow later this evening. That's this evening, so it's probably gone already. Negotiations saw newly elected lawmakers locked in dialogue overnight about a possible coalition government, and this continued well past noon today after election results did not produce a clear winner in Monday's election. As a party for a coalition of elected members requires a majority of 7 seats in the House of Assembly before they can form the government. The person that is selected as leader of the group after this process is completed is then nominated to be appointed as premier by the governor. Now, one of the reasons why I pointed it out, this person who is now become premier, hear what the item says? Join the Virgin Islands Party, which got 6 seats. Edric, you're rearing to go. Go ahead.
I'm trying to ask a question. Which party did she run with?
She obviously did not run. She joins, you heard what the item said. She joins the party and becomes.
Without being elected?
No. She wins.
Okay.
She wins the seat. That's the point they're making.
Okay.
But what they're saying is that if you are going to form a coalition, right? There used to be a debate that if I join your party and I only have 1 seat.
Okay. I got it. That's what I kept telling sometimes. Remember with PAM and NRP, the Honorable Joseph Parry won the 1 seat in Nevis, and he didn't see the essence of demanding the top spot. But many, well, I shouldn't say many, but A&R Robinson of Tobago, was it A&R Robinson? Yes, I would imagine, had 1 seat out of Tobago, and he demanded the prime ministership of Trinidad and Tobago, and he got it. But if you are timid and not forceful and not having the foresight of understanding your worth, you would be out there languishing and eventually wind up just like Joseph Parry, who they gave him the seat that Roy Jones left. Roy Jones lost his seat and was able, when Roy Jones lost his seat, they brought him back in as an advisor of the tourism minister. They gave Parry the seat or the portfolio of tourism, and Roy Jones was brought in as an advisor. I mean, I do not know how long Roy Jones lasted, but anyway, that is the essence of not being understandably forceful and to determine your worth. Because I recommended at the time that we demand the prime ministership. So the prime ministership has always languished in front of us, and we fail to take advantage of the opportunity, and ultimately take the top spot. So Mrs. Whitley obviously recognizes her worth, and even though she was just a one spot candidate, she was able to demand the top spot, and she got it. Now, going forward, we will make a determination as to how she governs as the chief minister.
Well, to be quite honest with you, it reflects a bit of history here in Nevis as well.
Well, even with the PLP.
Even with the PLP, yes.
Yes.
And did you give any advice to those that could have called such shot?
No, well, I wasn't in any position to tell them what to do, but at the same time, the former Prime Minister...
I'm going to let you continue that, but we were just searching the update. But she did not actually get the premiership. She became the deputy premier, and but she did join, so that they formed the government. She became deputy premier as the negotiations, I suppose, went on. But the Natalia, he continued on as the premier.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, again, with PLP, the former Prime Minister, he enjoyed the Prime Ministership of St. Kitts Nevis for 7 years. Unfortunately, he enjoyed it, the power, and he just didn't want to give it up and ultimately follow into the agreement which he signed, which he was part of, to, in fact, step down after two terms. Then what happened is history. The Honourable Mark Brantley realized it looks like this fellow is not going to agree to what he signed, and therefore let's get back to the negotiating table. We gave you the top spot. We gave it to you for 2 terms, and you, in the agreement you signed, it was promised that you would step down from the leadership and give somebody else a chance. But the honey was so sweet that he decided not to share any of it, so he lost.
But the 2 terms wasn't finished as yet.
No, but at the same time, a rebel doesn't change its partner, and you know exactly where he was going, and he started operating and governing as if he is going to seek the leadership of the unity construct and serve a 3rd term. The Honourable Mark Bradley saw, because of what was stated publicly, he tried to get Dr. Harris to come to a meeting or to several meetings, which Dr. Harris never agreed, and used all kinds of reasons to actually delay.
So that was the reason?
He used reasons for delaying.
No. The fact that he was going down the road for a 3rd term was the reason what caused the breakup. That's what I'm trying to find out.
Yes.
One of the reasons.
The Honourable Mark Brantley was wise enough to see the handwriting on the wall, simply because Dr. Harris did not want to come to the table to agree on several things. But the big thing was Dr. Harris was not ready to accede to the point where he will not seek the leadership for a third term.
You know, that's interesting because honestly I didn't know that was the crux of the problem. So
What do you think the crux of the problem?
work with me. I said I did not know.
Well,
So I'm being informed, you know.
well, based on what the Honorable Mark Brantley stated on his program, I listened attentively.
He said that,
He
or
gave,
you inferred that?
well, based on inference, and
Oh, okay.
we are students of English, and as a result,
So you think that if I were to ask the Honorable Mark Brantley, as stated by your conclusion, he would say what?
I can't tell you that.
Yeah, but okay. So, so full disclosure, you are not saying that that is what he said.
No,
You are simply saying, based on what he said, you concluded that.
quite true.
Okay. So you appreciate now why I did state I didn't know.
Well, you have the right.
Okay. Now you wanted to say something.
Well, I'm here going through the pages of my mind to find a situation like the one that took place in the British Virgin Islands. You said she joined the party. That means there was no previous arrangement. So I'm just trying to
No,
think.
that happens all the time in the BVI.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not shy on moving across,
Crisscrossing.
right, and joining and so on, because their philosophy of thinking is they want to be in government. So I've you know, as you know, I've worked on those elections, I've lived there and stuff like that, and they're not shy of forming a coalition. And to me, that is a great example of politics make strange bedfellows.
Yes, it is. But you must also respect. I mean, she shoot for. I'm sure the highest position. I believe it's through negotiation she probably settled for, you know, the deputy.
Yeah, correct.
You know, and which is good. I think here in Nevis we lack that kind of aspiration.
But which is good.
Right.
To what degree?
It is-
Because here's a question I have.
Yeah.
How likely or how effective you think it will be when you didn't go into the fight or the race as a team and you didn't know and understand the different person and personalities and stuff like that? What's the likelihood of success in governance? Because I mean, farming it is one thing, getting the title and the position is another, and then comes the hard part, correct? And we see what happened after our local election, not in government but in opposition. And you know so is one thing to say that.
Yeah, but you have expressed, you know, her desire, or you said that down in the BVI, people just want to be in government, you know.
When I said they want to be, I said their philosophy is their preference. And some people think that way. I mean, most people, a lot of persons, and they say, well, listen, I run because I want to be in government, because that is where you get the better opportunity to get the promises that you made effectuated. So that is the point that I'm really making. I wasn't making it in a basically idle or critical way to say. All they want to be in government as if it is something personal, or to achieve this for themselves and so on and so forth. It's from a more pragmatic standpoint.
Well, if there exists that overwhelming desire to fulfill the promises they have made to the public, that seems like a path to success. And because we are now questioning the way things might work, a stranger coming amongst, a group, and there could be a problem with the efficacy of it, I suppose. But I suppose if they are bent on staying in government and fulfilling the promises made to the people, that's a path to success. To me, that holds more water than even a group that was together prior to the election, but go into the election and then the cracks reveal itself. We have an example of that here in Ireland. The cracks reveal itself. So people coming together with the overwhelming desire to fulfill promises and to stay in government, that can work more than a party that's been together and present themselves as a party, but still and unattaining certain success, cracks surface, and so it's 6 of one and half dozen of the other. That's what people would say.
Well, we've got a situation, this situation still exists in Nevis, where Chrome, who is an independent candidate, can find herself in the position of supplying your constituency with the resources of the government if she feels as such to come aboard.
Be clear about that. Be clear about that.
Be more clear.
Come on board, what?
This is him.
Okay.
I said it months ago here.
You're using the word come aboard. You're not suggesting that you have any authority.
No, I have no authority.
No, work with me. I'm just checking. And you're not going to tell me you got that from the Honorable Mark Banton?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, none
That's
of that.
work with me. And so that is your own inference as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So you're making a lot of inferences. So when I see Mr. Brantley, I'm going to discuss with him your inferences from when he speaks. That is okay?
No.
No, don't tell him.
No.
Yeah, but that's very interesting. I mean, we wish that at times when we find ourselves in this collision that we shoot at the highest position. It was a mistake that Dr. Harris became the Prime Minister, and it was a mistake that Sean became the Deputy. And it was a mistake to advocate that he, in the August election that he would have been the Prime Minister if the CCM and the PAM had able to come together. Nevis people don't like to be the Prime Minister. What about that? We're not talking about Clause 113. So what are we talking about? Just being what? If you're not talking about Clause 113 and you have an attempt to be the Prime Minister, be the Prime Minister, mate. No halfway about that. Okay?
Well, Webbo brought to the fore the situation in the BVI, and it looks like that is in their DNA to
Crisscross.
right.
Move around.
It's in their DNA,
I can see why.
and to be in government, there is a plus.
Yes.
There is a plus. So, in that regard, as Webbo brought this item from the BVI's final results, is just rather practical for us to see the practicality of this particular action by the First Lady.
Would you like to see a division shoot for the highest office if, as a result of a coalition?
That's what I have always advocated. A.N.R. Robinson of Trinidad and Tobago.
But I didn't hear you. All in this, even when they're advocating that Sean would be the next prime minister, I didn't hear you say, what about us? What about Mark? What about that division, Because to me, we're letting this opportunity just pass us by, and what? We hope that a single man can, make us, come on. Come on. Harry shouldn't have been the prime minister. He was the most untrustworthy person in the Caribbean as a politician. When he became the prime minister, he came in with one seat. Okay? They say we do it for the reason of getting, rid of Dr. Denzel Douglas. Okay, we seem to have achieved that. And next election come, they put him back there. But he seems to got there, but nobody put him back there. But he got there to be the prime minister in the second term. But then I don't understand, after him, another Sinkis man, Sean? So these people have no ambition? Are we not ready? If we are not talking class 113, okay? Be the prime minister.
The opportunity avails itself.
It might come around again.
Yeah.
In a big way.
It knocked sure here before.
It knocks sure here. It knocking sure all the time. But you as an advisor, Mr. Stanley. What happened?
Advisor?
You are.
Where did I get that title from? You talk about advisor.
But from the microphone radio, you can advocate strongly.
Yeah, I do send out my opinion.
And you'll have me on your side with that, for sure.
Well, go ahead.
I think his man tell me that if who control the money control everything.
Well, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
We know that.
He was telling me if Mark want money, he gotta come down there. And have such talks. How street people get on. But
it is quite admirable.
Why we are staying away from that?
Why Webbo brought this piece from the British Virgin Islands onto this program tonight. So I'm saying we got the same situation here.
No. In one way, but not another way. Here's a lady who joined a party.
Yeah.
And she shoots at the highest position.
Yeah.
Shoot at the highest position. I mean, is it that difficult to say, well, okay, I'm the Premier of Nevis, I will move on to be the Prime Minister of the Federation, and therefore somebody else take the seat of the Premier? That's too difficult?
No, we know the old adage.
So why not?
Politics.
Let me take this. Good evening, you're on the air.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. You hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm listening. I tune in late, but I heard the one who just finished, Nayak. Permit me to call him Nayak. And I quite agree with him. The thing is, in my view, the political disturbance between the two islands is so funny. I wonder what citizens would say if a vision becomes the Prime Minister. I recall hearing these statements by two of our former Prime Ministers. All Nevis want to sink its money. And then we heard another one saying, I think it was the first time around with Unity, was to sink its money to Nevis. Yes, and I feel, I often hear Mr. Brantley, and many times he say, what happened? And the vision can't be Prime Minister. We're one federation. We have enough skillful people, intelligent people, who can be Prime Minister of the Federation also, and not just a petition. But I suppose it is all based on the parties. Thank you very much for hearing me. I'm calling out of Central Station.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. We ask ourselves that question all the time, Mr. Stanley. We ask ourselves and we blame ourselves all the time. No, we don't blame ourselves all the time. We blame Sinkits all the time. Okay, but I think, the opportunity has presented itself here more than once, and it makes us wonder. I mean, we are not, of course, are we accustomed to things going too smooth? What is the difficult thing in not abandoning, but giving up the seat of the Premier to be the Prime Minister? Is it a physical fear? What is it?
You have to ask the players. The late Premier Van Zandt, that knocked sure
with him.
like he's a dead wood here, and he didn't take it. But I told him it was coming. I told him, look forward, begin to sound like a Prime Minister. Look like a Prime Minister. Your utterances should be sounded like a Prime Minister. So when it comes, because it's coming, nobody can deny you of taking it. But it came, and he allowed it to languish.
Yes, maybe because he had that intention, looking at, the medium time period, because it was about 6-7 years after that he called a referendum, right?
Well, like I said, we
or 5 years after that.
Time in our history that different things happen. But
that stand that he took was a bit different in a sense to me, because to me he had whatever was happening with Nevis, he had the confidence to evoke the clause 113, and that stemmed from his standing of being non-aligned.
Okay, let me just take this. Thank you for holding. Could you go ahead?
Hello, good evening, gentlemen.
Yes.
Just tuned in, so I have to get in my 2 cents before the time go by. I don't think that the petition is going to be too comfortable with a Nevis Prime Minister. As a matter of fact, I don't think they'll tolerate it, like how we tolerate the nonsense. Especially with this Labour government, as his history will have it, the Labour government has never been kind to Nevis. They've never been thoughtful to Nevis. And, based on things that have happened in the past, you get the impression that the Labour movement or the Labour structure think that somebody died and leave the Prime Ministership up to, a petition. So I don't think they'll be comfortable with a Nevis Prime Minister. That's not going to happen, as far as the petition is concerned. So, we could keep dreaming. That's not going to happen.
why do you think it's not going to happen, Caller?
because I don't think the Kittians gonna tolerate it. The way we tolerate the way they treat us, if the shooters on the other foot. You think the Kittians gonna tolerate all the nonsense that we take from them? It won't happen. No. We are so quiet and so reserved that we take any old thing. Anything they send over here, we take it. I don't think they would. Like I said, the shooters on the other foot. I don't think the Kittians will tolerate all the nonsense. That's my 2 cents. Mr. Stanley, you could say what you like. You could say what you like, but the reality is, it's not going to happen. Have a good evening.
Okay, caller. Thank you.
Well, a Nivijan would have to get the trust of the army, right?
No.
Why not? If you want to be prime minister, the army must, work with you.
No. What do you call army? You're bringing in war into this?
No, ain't no war. Ain't no war. But you have to look. Any condition, Nivijan Finance Services has been a prime minister. There's got to be a strong person.
Sure.
Commanding the authority of the institution that supports that office. And the army is one such institution.
You are the head of a country and you are head of the armed forces. All right?
Yeah, but if the armed forces ain't respect your head, it's a fleeting illusion to pursue but never attain.
That's the last word, and this program repeats tomorrow at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On the Mark. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. Thought I get results. You all have a wonderful evening.
And opinions expressed in the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nevis Broadcasting Company.